All right, well, Casey here with CL Creator. I'm teaching you web design and Webflow one video at a time. And today we're going to talk about how to create a custom map using Mapbox inside of your Webflow project. Now, this map is going to be controlled through Webflow's CMS, which is going to be really nice. And you can use, directions or actually an address to pull up a store that is closest to that particular address. And so here I'm just pulling one up for Dallas. But if, say, I typed in Arlington, that's because my client is here in the DFW Metroplex. You notice that over here on the left, it's going to add in the distance from that particular location. You can see, indeed, here is the location of the city center of Arlington, and here is where that store is located. You can also click on a dot on the map, and it's going to pull up or highlight that particular location, as well as it's going to here's the highlight part. It's going to pull up the card over here as well. So there are a number of different things that you can do with this. I want to show you how I have this set up. And before I jump in, I want to mention that I do have a super detailed blog post that I have written. Primarily, this is for myself, but it's also for you as well. So you can walk through this. It's going to have setup instructions for the CMS. It's going to have the different CDNs that you need to add into the head. It's going to have the overall structure of the project, as well as what IDs and attributes that you need to add to the project and where you need to add them. And then it's also going to have down here, if you get past all of this, it's kind of like more of the HTML structure at the very beginning of the styles. Then when you get to this code breakdown part, one of the things that I want to mention is that the very first part of that, this whole huge code block right here at the very beginning, is the entire source code for this particular project. So you can copy and paste this into your Webflow body, like the closing body section of the particular page, and it will control the project as long as you set it up exactly how I've set it up. And then after that, starting with this initialization, I'm just going through and talking about all of the different ways in which this code is working, trying to give you an understanding of that, but also trying to teach my future self so I don't forget what all this is and how everything is working in this particular code. You're also going to notice that there are a number of different comments all throughout, so you should be able to easily jump in and understand, like, hey, what is actually happening within this code block? How am I supposed to utilize this code? All of that stuff as well is there for you. So let's jump into the project. Let me show you exactly how to set everything up. The first thing that I'm going to focus in on is going to be the CMS portion of this project. And so I've created a locations CMS, and there are a few things within this CMS that are absolutely crucial for you to create. You're going to, of course, have a name, but you need a featured image, a city, an address, phone, latitude, and longitude, and directions are all here at the beginning. Out of these, and then I just have the hours, but out of these, the crucial pieces that you need in order for the code to operate correctly is going to be the city and the latitude and the longitude. These are the pieces that are being pulled in, as well as, just the name. Of course, you're going to name it, and you're going to add in whatever you want the name of it to be, but the city, the latitude, and the longitude are absolutely crucial in order for the map to actually work. And that's because the code is actually pulling those pieces from the map, from this collection that is being placed on the page. And so let me just jump back over here. It's actually pulling this information from this particular collection here. And so you see you've got the name for the sidebar, which is connected to the city. If I go down here, it's connected to the city, and you have your latitude and you have your longitude, and that's what's going to create the latitude and longitude are going to create the places on the map, and then the city is actually going to be what is listed right here inside of this map pop-up. And so those things are crucial. Now, one of the things that you probably are thinking, well, how do I get the latitude and the longitude? So if you just go to whatever your store is, so here's one of the stores that they have, you right click. You may get this pop up here, but you can just right click on the map marker, and then you're going to get the latitude and the longitude. The first is going to be latitude, the second is going to be longitude, and you want to take and you want to place these in your project separately. So there's two different lines over here inside of this particular Webflow CMS. One of them is going to be for latitude, one's going to be for longitude. These are text, so it's going to pull it into our project as a string, and the code is actually going to take those two portions based on the attributes. It's going to pull them, it's going to manipulate it, turn it into a number, and then it's going to combine it into a coordinates array that Mapbox is going to use in order to place these dots on the map. So you need to make sure that you separate them inside of the Webflow project. The next thing that you need to make sure that you have, and whether you set your project up exactly like mine or not, you're going to need to make sure that you have a couple of different things in order for the code to work and for you not to get an error. The first thing is I have section map, and everything is based on attributes. So you don't necessarily have to name everything the way that I have named them. There are a couple instances where that is the case, but I would say 99% of everything that is in this project is based on these attributes. And this is based on the ID. So I have it set on mobile. Since this list scrolls down like this, whenever you click on one of these, I have a card that's going to pop up here. And in order for you to be able to see that card, I have a scroll set back up to the top. So whenever you click on a card, it's going to scroll back up to the top on mobile views, and it's using this section ID in order to do that. The other thing that you need to make sure that you do is you're going to have a wrapper. So you have your Mapbox wrapper, and you want to make sure that you give that an ID of map. This is standard Mapbox. They need this ID there in order to know where you want to place the map. So you need to make sure that you have that as well. And then if you walk through the blog post that I have provided you, it's going to tell you where to place all the different attributes. So you have this location list sidebar, and you're going to notice that I have an attribute over here on that collection list. I've got another attribute down here, and they're all specifically named in a particular way. So you need to make sure that you do that in the location name sidebar, the latitude and longitude. If you notice that these two things, they're hidden. Now, this is an important point. Whether you have a sidebar or not, you can hide your collection, and this is still going to work. And that's because it doesn't take it off of the page. You know, whenever you're just using display none, it's still in the source code, and so we're going to still be able to pull that particular section into the code and be able to manipulate that in order to get the pieces of it that are necessary in order to create the GeoJSON data that Mapbox is going to use in order to display things on the map. Now, one of the important things about this location name sidebar, and if I pop back over here to our CMS, it's going to be the city is what I'm utilizing here, is this is what is creating the location ID that is getting passed to the sidebar, that's getting passed to the dot, that's getting passed to the card that you see in the pop-up whenever we're on this particular page and we click on this. All of these are getting the same attribute, and it's based on the location ID, and this is what's tying all of them together, so that way this store is popping up whenever you click this dot on the map or click this store on the sidebar. So what that means is that that location ID, it's based on the city, and you can base it on other things if you want, but the way I have it based is the city. This needs to be unique. It cannot be the same. You can't have like 5 Dallas, Texas cities and then everything else be unique. If you're gonna do that, then I would suggest creating a different field and then adding that in a different place in the code base so that this particular location ID is getting pulled. And I'll just show you, pretty quickly here how this is actually working here in our code base. If I go down here to this list locations, this is where things are getting created. And so right here we have this location ID, and this location ID is pulling from the location name sidebar, which is connected to our city. Now you can change this to something different, and you can utilize a different location ID because it's just getting pulled in here as the location ID right here, and then all of that is getting propagated throughout the code. So you need to make sure, or if you want to use a different field as the ID, just make sure to change that here, add a different attribute or use a different query selector in order for that to take place. But it just needs to be a unique value. I can't stress that enough. The other feature or the other thing that you need to make sure that you do, besides applying all of the attributes correctly, and check out the blog post for that, is if you're going to sort this list, which you probably are going to want to do, right? I've sorted the list A to Z based on the city, and I've sorted that over here. You can see in the Webflow project. You want to make sure that you sort both lists if you're going to have another list on the page that's going to pop up this particular card here. So I have another list that is controlling this card, and if you're going to sort one, right, this is hidden. So inside of my project, if we jump back in here, you don't see that. That's because it's here, but I have it hidden. You want to make sure that you sort this list too, even though you cannot initially see it. If you don't, things are going to get messed up, and it's not going to apply the right data attribute. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe somebody knows and they can tell me why Webflow is not applying the correct data attribute whenever you do that, but they don't. So you need to make sure that you sort both lists, and you want to sort them by the same criteria. So since I've sorted this list by the city in alphabetical A to Z, then I want to go over here and sort this other list that I have on the page by the city alphabetical A to Z, even if I don't have that particular category or this particular portion of the CMS showing. So whenever you pop back over here, you're going to notice that I don't have the city. This is actually the name. The city is not showing. The address and directions and phone number and all the store hours and everything like that are showing, but you can still sort inside of Webflow based on that particular criteria because it is in the CMS. So make sure that you do that. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is on two of these right here on the location item sidebar. Actually, location item wrapper sidebar. I have a combo class of is active, and if I click that, you're going to notice it just applies a gray background. You can style yours however you want, but it's just showing whatever the active class is. And the other thing that you want to make sure that you do is you want to have an empty div where the distance is going to get added to the page. And so if we jump back over here, you're going to notice that this distance is here, but if I reload this map, the distance is not there. And so the way that I have this set up is that after you search based on location, it's going to show you the distance from your address or from your current location. If you use the locator button, it will show you the distance from you to this particular store. That way you can know, oh, it's not really going to be that far from me. I can go ahead and drive over there. So you need to have this div inside of this project right here that will control that. So the code is going to add this HTML in, and it's going to display that on the map. The other thing that you need to make sure that you do is, and this is going to be in the blog post as well, but you want to make sure that you add these links, and you want to add them to the head section. These are links out to the CDN for Mapbox. And then if you want to be able to calculate the distance, you're going to add in this turf.js as well as the geocloder plugin. These are kind of the top ones right here, are the main ones that you need. And then this is just some simple styles for the pop-up on the map. And by the pop-up on the map, what I mean is this right here. Now you can add a lot more into this pop-up than just the name or the city. And I'll show you that here in just a second. So you want to make sure that you do that, and then you're just going to take and you're going to place all of your code that I have provided you here in the blog post. You're going to take all of this code and you're just going to paste it into your Webflow before closing body tag. Now, a couple things that I want to show you in the code that is going to be maybe just crucial or give you a good insight into this is you're going to be set up with some variables here. Now, there are some that are being selected throughout in each of the for each statements, but some of the main variables are being set here. You want to make sure that you grab your Mapbox access token. So you create a Mapbox account, and then once you create that account and set up a map inside of there, it's going to give you an access token that is associated with your account. So you want to make sure that you do that. And then there's also going to be some styles for your particular map that you can add in here. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can just add in other different styles that Mapbox has. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your map, but if you create a custom map inside of Mapbox, you can add your styles here. The other thing that you're going to notice is that I do have two like zooms. This is just for mobile, and what it's actually doing is zooming out a little bit further so you can see more of the map on the mobile screen as opposed to on the desktop. The other thing that I want to point out to your attention is I talked about sorting the list inside of Webflow. Maybe you don't want to do that. One of the things that you can do is you can utilize this sort feature at the top of the code, and it will sort the sidebar for you. It's not going to sort the other, hidden card pop-up. It's just going to sort the sidebar. And so if you don't want to go through the trouble of sorting things in the Webflow project, which I think that you should, because I think it's just better to keep things in Webflow if we can keep them in Webflow and not hidden away in the code, so that this person who's coming in the future will know exactly where to go and make changes. But if you wanted to use this right here is a sort feature that you can utilize. If you're not going to use this sort feature, just comment this code out. I've got it highlighted here, sort list based on city name using the attribute, and then it ends here, right? Here's where we're beginning to create the GeoJSON data. And this GeoJSON data is being created from the Webflow CMS. It's being created from the sidebar. And so you want to make sure that you do have all of the different attributes added to the correct, sections. And if we just pop back over here to this blog post that I have written, I have that. If we scroll down a little bit further here, I've got that all right here for you. So here you can get all of the different attributes, and it's telling you which class that it is being applied to as well. So I went ahead and did that. And if this doesn't work for you, so this is for the sidebar, and then I've broken it out. Here's some ones for the map card, and I have a bunch of other things that you need to make sure that you add to the project. But if for some reason that doesn't work for you, at the very bottom of this post, it's quite lengthy, but at the bottom of this post there is going to be another section that's going to tell you all the different attributes as well as some of the IDs that you need to make sure that you add to the project in order for this particular project to work. So between those two things, I think you will be able to get this set up in in the way that you need to get this set up. All right, the other thing that I wanted to do quickly is just walk through the code with you. There's going to be some variables at the top. Again, I mentioned that these are not every variable that is in the project. Some of them are in the for each statements. That here's going to be the map initialization that's going to take place. You can change where you want this centered right here with these initial coordinates. If you notice that there are tons of comments all throughout, this is for my future self, but it's also for you so that you can understand what is taking place inside of this code base. And then the other thing that you're going to notice if you work through this blog post, once you get past this initial long block of code, which is everything that you need for the project, I'm breaking this down step by step, and then here's going to be explanations after each section to help you better understand what's taking place in case you want to actually modify this. Okay, so we have the initialization. Here's where we are sorting. And then next, you're going to notice that this is where the GeoJSON data is being created, and this is being created from the Webflow CMS. The coordinates, all the different things are being added in and added into the stores object. One of the things that you can do, as I talked about earlier, if you wanted to add more things to the pop-up, which is this pop-up right here, you can create additional properties inside of here. So you have these properties. So I just have two properties that are created, right? I've got an ID, which is based on the location ID, and then I also have the city, and this the pop-up is utilizing this property to populate, the city here on the map. And you can add in other properties here if you would like. You just need to make sure that you select them here and make sure that they get added to this GeoJSON data object right here. So that's one thing that you certainly can do. You can add in images, you can add in the address, all that stuff. I mean, if you just totally don't want this other map pop up like I have over here, then you can add everything you want just to this pop up here. There are, I think there's a clonable out there that has that. But for me, I needed to be able to have the different store hours that were different for some stores, but mainly I needed to be able to have these tasting hours that are very different for each store and on different days. And so I went ahead and created this additional map pop-up. But just to let you know that this is where you can add those in. And of course, you can pull them from the Webflow CMS and then have them added here, which will eventually get added up here into that. All right, as you work through, you're just going to see a number of different things being added and created. Here's our map layer that's being created. And one of the things that you're going to notice here is it is using that stores data object from up above. And there's this paint feature here. So instead of adding a map marker, and I have a section in a blog post that talks about the difference between utilizing just this paint feature as opposed to utilizing the map markers. It worked for me that all I needed to do is add these red dots to the list here to represent the different stores. It kind of goes with the color you can see of this particular project. And so it worked for me that this is the case, but you can use map markers, and the default map marker you can see that they went ahead and put on here based on the location is this blue, but you can change the color of the default map marker if you wanted more of a map marker look. But to circle back, this paint feature is what is controlling this dot. So you would need to do something different from the paint feature. Again, there's a section linked in the blog post to an article on Mapbox that shows you exactly how to add this particular map marker. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the geo code functions and helper functions, and that is basically this search box and this locator right here, find my location, which is going to take the person's current location. And I've added 2 helper functions in here just to help with this. So you've got your first helper function, which is going to calculate the distance and update the DOM, as well as you've got another helper function here that is reordering the list. And then we have another helper function that's going to highlight, the closest location and add to the pop-up. And then we're going to come to the actual functionality for these geocoder functionality. So we have search. So if you wanted to use search, then you would keep this in, and this right here is for current location. I've tried to highlight everything inside of the code base, so in case you don't want it, you can get rid of it. If you totally didn't want any sort of search, any sort of current location, you can delete all of this stuff here. That way you're not getting any errors or loading something that you don't really want to be loading in your map. And then I have a couple of functions that are based on click events here set up throughout. You can look through those and you can see exactly what each of these are doing. I've highlighted a number of different features in the code for that. Here is one that might be of interest, is the fly to the location, and this is what's controlling. Whenever you click on the map, it's going to fly to this particular location. So this is controlling not only that functionality, but it is also talking about how far it zooms in, what the speed is going to be, how fast it's going to move to there, what's the animation curve and the easing and things like that. So you can go in and you can mess with that, and you can play with that, and you can get this map to zoom as far or as close as you want, as far away as you want, however you want to customize that. And then I have a number of different event listeners here at the bottom that are going to have some different functionality, but are basically going to be based on the sidebar and on clicking on the dot there. And, really that's it. Again, I will reference this post over here that I have created that has, pretty much everything that you need to know for this particular project. It's so long that you can't even reach all the table of contents because there's so much stuff in this. But use this as kind of like your master guide. I've tried to put in as much notes as possible. Hopefully you can get this implemented in your project. I know that it took me a little bit of time, but with the right guidance and the right information, you can certainly get there as well. So if you like this video, if you found some value, if you're still with me, smash the like button for me. If you're still with me, subscribe to the channel. I'm putting out all kind of videos like this on a regular basis. And if you have an idea for a video, put it down in the comments and I'll try to make that video for you.